What's going on, everybody? How are we doing tonight? Hope you are doing wonderful. Let me know if you can hear me okay. Making sure I can see everything. There we go. Dragon Wolf, how's it going? The Art of Pokemon. How are you doing, fam? Appreciate you reaching out to me. Kara, Matt, and then, of course, the New Zealand fam. Always here for support, and a very special happy birthday to Mr. Layton, 8 years old today. It is good to see y'all. The Art of Pokemon. If you're still here, actually, I have your win right here. I'll show you exactly what's coming for you. Sorta good. Well, that's good. I'm glad you're sorta good. I'm hoping story time can help make it just a little bit better. Go 6 likes already. Really appreciate you guys. See, Boba got some friends. Yeah. Here we go. This is what we've built over the past few months, really. When it came to Thursday streams, we've been building these 4 days, these 4D models. What's up, Rich Boy? How's it going? Here you go. Art of Pokemon. So you were the lucky winner of day number 8 of Ghost Miss. So you got yourself a Miltank art card. And then you also won this, which is a wooden Ninetales, courtesy of Lost in the Wood Co. Of course, Brangus McGee went ahead and sent these through. Uncle Brangus in the chat. So GG's fam, the quality on the front camera isn't as great right here, but yep, I'll get this packaged up and sent out to you. But yeah, congratulations, man. Yeah, you're very welcome. What's going on, Ernie? Good to see you. So yeah, that's just been chilling there. I wasn't fixing to get rid of it. It was just you're a hard one to get a hold of. So I was happy when you left a comment, and I was able to get a hold of you that way. All good. Glad to hear, buddy. Glad to hear it. As is tradition, let's go ahead and give this a real quick 1-2 solve, and then we will get back into our story time, which, if anybody remembers, we are going to finish tonight the Patchwork Girl of Oz. I know that Catch 'em All Kev, we were just over in his stream. He was streaming, and it was a good stream. W stream. He's got some really good ideas for some stuff coming. And yeah, he was just ending up, and I was like, yeah, I gotta go. I gotta go and go live. I'm sorry you're a little sad, Dragon Wolf. I'm hoping that this stream can help lighten your moods a little bit. I appreciate you being here. How is everybody? How are you, Ernie? Feeling all right, Dave? Is your mom all right? Hope everybody's doing well. Why not? Rich Boy sending on a membership. There you go, Dragon Wolf getting a membership. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Dragon Wolf. Slept all day. That's the way to go. Yeah, that's rough. That's rough, Dragon Wolf. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, absolutely. And there you go, Dragon Wolf, getting gifted the membership by Professor Rich Boy. Yeah, that is certainly sad. I'm hoping that we can help bring you some kind of at least relief from thought for a few hours. Found out earlier today. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, and our hearts and condolences definitely go out to you. All right. All right. Got 5 people up on in here. sip on my coffee a little bit. What's everybody drinking tonight? Well, that was lucky, wasn't it? I slept all day. I should have. Yeah, I should have slept all day. But instead, I decided to art. I've been posting art that I've been doing for all of you in the Discord art appreciation channel. Which, if you're not in the Discord, join the Discord. And yeah, share your artwork with us in artwork appreciation. I do have a poetry channel. If you do want to share your poetry or poetry that you like, you can share it there as well. We used to read a lot of poetry on stream, and I do want to get back to that. Let's see. Exclamation point. Oh, it really is. This one should be easy, though. So I'm going to put exclamation point Discord in there. Go ahead and click on that link. Thank you, Boo. Appreciate you. Go ahead and click on that Discord link, Art of Pokemon, and it should take you right to it. Holiday, back to work tomorrow, so drinking an Aledo Porte beer. Excellent. Well, cheers to you, Professor. Drink responsibly, but sad to go back to work, but enjoy your last night of per se freedom. Catch 'em all, Kev raid. What's going on? Lost Hero Games. Lolo coming in on the raid. Kev raid. I'm sorry, Dragon Wolf. Just chilling tonight. Excellent. Glad you're just chilling. Got the Raiders coming in on the Kev rig. Got 10 people showing up on for the story. Me raid. What's going on, Kev? I'm in the Discord. Easy enough. Whoop. See, just like that. Just like that. So yeah, check it out. I do have a general channel of what's on your mind. If you ever anybody just wants to talk about anything or get an opinion, of course you can always anybody can always reach out to me via Discord, direct message, or if you prefer email, anybody can email me at the pokeghostkev@gmail.com. And I do check that regularly. So if you ever just need to talk, need advice, need to chat, I will always put time aside to answer those emails. Thanks, Boo. So we definitely did. One, we missed an opportunity because, of course, with the Art of Pokemon coming in, I was sharing off that this was what the Art of Pokemon 1, which is a wooden Ninetales from Lost in the Wood Co. And I did want to just let everybody know that if you ever do go visit Lost in the Wood Co. over on Etsy, and you do want to pick up some wooden cards for yourself from Sean, make sure to use the discount code GHOST at the checkout. You'll get 10% off your order. So really appreciate you. Appreciate you, Sean, Lost in the Wood, Raphilosophy for the connection, Uncle Brangus for the find. It was all just quite a beautiful story. And I'll be doing all of those giveaways that they had sponsored. I still have 4 giveaways to go. And I'll be running those giveaways at the I would say the first Saturday of every month when I go live. We'll do a big members giveaway, and we'll play Last Ghost Standing for one of the wooden cards from Lost in the Wood. They are all blind, so you will have to pick blind. I'll reveal it only once after you've won and picked. Wait, but made it. Let's go, Purple Moon. I appreciate you being here. In fact, I am going to go ahead and get into the story now, being just at that 10-minute mark, letting everybody come in, find a drink, have a seat, pull up a chair next to the fire. It's funny because I wasn't going to utilize this light today. I was going to utilize my other light I always use, but man, when it was over here, it just cast a shadow on all these Pokemon, and it kind of gave a like creepy ambiance, which I'm fine with, and it looked really neat, but I didn't want to do that to everybody. So maybe we'll give it a try next time, but you can't see very well. Catch 'em all, Kev. He's not shouting, not angry. He's just calm, chilling. Yeah, Ernie Otherwise, has to utilize a magnifying glass to type. So he types in all caps to make it easy to see. Plus, right now, I don't mind because I can see it easier. Dark, creepy side, which is why I really, really enjoyed the Rocket set and Destined Rivals, because although it was, still Pokemon and still cheerful and still, happy, and then there was that Kangaskhan. But every artwork that was a Rocket Pokemon really had a dark tone under it, like the Weezing was a very dark tone. The Orbeetle by Hyoganosuke, that was very, very dark tone, but it was playful dark. And that's something I can really appreciate. Very much like Shrouded Fable was also very playful yet dark. That Houndoom card, though, man, that's a terrifying card. But I agree, and that's why I'm really hoping for Halloween this year. They really dip into, the hype and the rumors that I heard that they were going to do art exclusives for Trick or Trade sets. And then what we got instead was simply nothing. Sorry, just give me a second. I can't believe I haven't. I've read to y'all since I've been back, so I don't know why this is all in airplane mode, but. Just half blind. Makes sense. The Dark Blastoise is super dark and amazing. I also don't like that they took away the dark title for the Pokemon in Destined Rivals and Gloria Team Rocket. I feel like the dark Pokemon would have been a little bit better way to go. But uh, at the same time, Dark Golduck, that was a really cool card too. You're not wrong, Dragon Wolf. Dark Golduck, where he's coming out of the water and blah, doing the beam from his head. Catch 'em all, Caverick. Appreciate you, fam. Mrs. 5150, I hope you're doing well tonight. Golduck is so creepy looking. He really is, just naturally. How does Psyduck turn into that? That's true. That's true. But I mean, look at Magikarp. Stranger things have happened, right? 13 likes so far. Appreciate the count, Mrs. 5150. One new member with Dragon Wolf sniping it. There we go. Oh yeah, we left on a major cliffhanger where Oho and the gang were on their way to Oz, and Oho decided to pick one of the ingredients that the Crooked Magician needed, which was I think it was like a 7-leaf clover, a 9-leaf clover, something like that. I knew that's all it would take to summon Sean Bowden, was to say that the Golduck evolution. Yeah. Stop picking on Golduck. I'm not picking on Golduck. No one's picking on Golduck. Well, Sean is just a diehard Psyduck fan. All right, but as he was going, he decided to pick a 6-leaf clover, and that's illegal. You can't do that without Ozma's permission, the Princess of Oz. She has to give you permission to pick any magical things and take them with you. And he didn't get it. And he didn't get it. And he decided to pick it anyway. And so here we are. He walked into Oz, and they're like, "Oh, are you Oho?" And he's like, "Why, yes, I am. How do you know?" And they're all like, "Arrest him." It's all in good fun, Dragon Wolf. All right, come on, Kindle. I'm also really hoping it was doing something weird because I had it plugged in all day and yet it didn't charge. So, JB, how's it going, man? I'll be right back. Leaving grocery store and heading home. No worries. Drive safely. Appreciate you, Mrs. 5150. So I decided to stop on the chapter where, as he walks in, he gets arrested, and that's where we're going to pick up today. And we are going to see exactly the fate of Oho. So now it's also a race because I'm at 74%. So I'm just hoping the Kindle doesn't die before we can finish the book. Playing some Smash Melee with Jordan. What's going on, man? I hope you're doing well. Pokey Ghost Theory. I like that emoji. I might be replacing that emoji because it's not utilized too much. So maybe I'll ask your guys' opinion on what you would like to see as an emoji. Come on, man. Just looking at a black screen right now. Wake up. That's the one. Come on. Do the thing that I need you to do before I finish my coffee would be nice. Appreciate your patience, y'all. Got 15 of you in here. Let's go. We need a dope. Dope. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's progress. Saw the title of the book. Stop. That's what I need. Thank you. That reminds me, I made a cube 2 cart. I need one. Add cube to cart. I need one. Yes, get one. Hello, what's up, Big Island Angler? How you doing? Gold duck emoji. A doe emoji. Okay. Okay. That is something that I do say, huh? Good to see you as well, brother. I hope you're doing well. Finally got the Kindle to maybe start acting right. So we're going to jump into the last few chapters here, which is The Patchwork Girl of OZ by L. Frank Baum. Enjoy the story. Enjoy each other's company. Hey, how's it going, Uncle Brangus? It's good to see you, brother. And yeah, really looking forward to having this time here with you. 17 minutes in, we're going to start chapter 15, which is Ozma's Prisoner. Oho just got arrested. The boy was so bewildered by this calamity that he made no resistance at all. He knew very well he was guilty, but it surprised him that Ozma also knew it. He wondered how she had found out so soon that he had picked the 6-leaf clover. He handed his basket to Scraps and said, "Keep that until I get out of prison. If I never get out, take it to the crooked magician to whom it belongs." The Shaggy Man had been gazing earnestly at the boy's face and uncertain whether to defend him or not. But something he read in Oho's expression made him draw back and refuse to interfere to save him. The Shaggy Man was greatly surprised and grieved, but he knew that Ozma never made mistakes, and so Oho must really have broken the law of Oz. The soldier. This is really, sorry, it's, the pages are sticking. The soldier with the green whiskers now led them through the gate and into a little room built into the wall. Here sat a jolly little man, richly dressed in green and having round his neck a heavy gold chain to which a number of great golden keys were attached. This was the guardian of the gate, and at that moment they entered the room. He was playing a tune upon a mouth organ. "Listen," he said, holding up his hand for silence. "I've just composed a tune called The Speckled Alligator. It's in patch time, which is much superior to ragtime, and I've composed it in honor of the Patchwork Girl who has just arrived." How did you know I had just arrived? So it seems my Kindle is haunted just kicked me out to the home screen. This is breaking the illusion, and I'm really upset about it. Jesse! Appreciate you. It's good to see you. Extra avocado, how's it going? It's good to see you. Got 15 of y'all in here. I don't know why it decided to just do that. It just kicked me out of everything mid-sentence. I'm sorry. Might be time to invest in a new Kindle. No, no worries at all, Dragonwolf. That's exactly what these streams are designed for. This is bedtime. Sorry we're late. Been out with mom, older brother, younger brother, sister after school. Now dad and Nana wanted to take me out, and I said no. Said no. Well, it's good to see you, Leighton. And Layla, and Nana Katrina, and Brad if you're there. Matt Gooch doing collection rearranging. Nothing like sorting cars to the sound of Kev's voice. I appreciate you, Matt Gooch. If my Kindle wants to act right, and now at 68%. It needs to get it together. Mystic, it's good to see you, Mystic. That was alright. I know people who come here just so that they can fall asleep. 18 people in the chat. Come on, Kindle. Really appreciate y'all being here. Really, really sorry, y'all. I don't know what's happening with my machine. To read Dracula, that's funny you say that. I almost did read that around Halloween. And maybe I will. They're using money to show up Nana Katrina. I will not put up with it. How rude. Very disrespectful and disappointed now. Yeah, that's true. Well, you got a really good heart. So always stay true to you. And I respect that. 67. Back to the black screen. How frustrating, though, to kick you out in the middle of the book. I appreciate that. It's on the list for sure. I might have to go and get more coffee. To be quite frank, I have no idea what's happening with this. Okay. Okay, we're good. We got it. We got it back. Let's try again. How did you know I just arrived? Asked Scraps, much interested. It's my business to know who's coming, for I'm the guardian of the gate. Keep quiet while I play you all the speckled alligator. It wasn't a very bad tune, nor a very good one, but all listened respectfully. While he shut his eyes and swayed his head from side to side and blew the notes from the little instrument. When it was all over, the soldier with the green whiskers said, Guardian, I have your prisoner. Good gracious, a prisoner? Cried the little man, jumping up from his chair. Which one? Not the shaggy man? No, this boy. Ah, I hope his fault is as small as himself, said the guardian of the gate. But what can he have done? And what made him do it? Can't say, replied the soldier. All I know is that he's broken the law. But no one ever does that. Then he must be innocent and soon will be released. I hope you're right, Guardian. Just now I'm ordered to take him to prison. Get me the prisoner's robe from your official wardrobe. The Guardian unlocked the closet and took from it a white robe, which the soldier threw over Oho. It covered him just from head to foot. but had two holes just in the front of his eyes so he could see where he was going. In this attire, the boy presented a very quaint appearance. As the guardian unlocked the gate leading from his room into the streets of the Emerald City, the Shaggy Man said to Scraps, "I think I shall take you directly to Dorothy, as the Scarecrow advised, and the Glass Cat and the Woozy may come with us. Oho must go to prison with the soldier with the green whiskers, but he will be well treated, and you need not worry about him." "What will they do with him?" asked Scraps. "That I cannot tell. Since I came to the Land of Oz, no one has ever been arrested or imprisoned, until Oho broke the law." "Seems to me that girl ruler of yours is making a big fuss over nothing," remarked Scraps, tossing her yarn hair out of her eyes with a jerk of her patched hand. "I don't know what Oho has done, but it couldn't be anything very bad, for you and I were with him all the time." The Shaggy Man made no reply to this speech, and presently the Patchwork Girl forgot all about Oho in her admiration of the wonderful city she had entered. They soon separated from the Munchkin boy, who was led by a soldier with green whiskers down the side street toward the prison. Oho felt very miserable and greatly ashamed of himself, but he was beginning to grow angry because he was treated in such a disgraceful manner. Instead of entering the splendid Emerald City as a respectable traveler who was entitled to a welcome and a hospitality, he was being brought in as a criminal, handcuffed and in a robe that told all he met of his deep disgrace. Oho was by nature gentle and affectionate, and if he disobeyed the law of Oz, it was to restore his dear Unc Nunky to life. His fault was more thoughtless than wicked, but that did not alter the fact that he did commit a fault. At first, he had felt sorrow and remorse, but the more he thought about the unjust treatment he had received, unjust merely because he considered it so, the more he resented his arrest, blaming Ozma for making foolish laws and then punishing folk who broke them. Only a six-leaf clover, a tiny green plant growing neglected and trampled underfoot. What harm could there be in picking it? Oho began to think Ozma must be a very bad and oppressive ruler for such a lovely fairyland as Oz. The Shaggy Man said the people loved her, but how could they? The little Munchkin boy was so busy thinking these things, which many guilty prisoners have thought before, that he scarcely noticed all the splendor of the city streets which through they passed. Whenever they met any of the happy, smiling people, the boy turned his head away in shame, although none knew who was beneath the robe. By and by they reached the house built just beside the great city wall, but in a quiet, retired place. It was a pretty house, neatly painted, with many, many windows. Before it was a garden filled with blooming flowers. The soldier with the green whiskers led Oho up the gravel path to the front door, on which he knocked. A woman opened the door, seeing Oho in his white robe, exclaimed, "Goodness me! A prisoner at last! But what a small one, soldier!" "The size doesn't matter, Tollydiggle, my dear. The fact remains that he is a prisoner," said the soldier, "and this being the prison, and you the jailer, it is my duty to place the prisoner in your charge." "True, come in, then, and I'll give you a receipt for him." They entered the house and passed through the hall into a large circular room, where the woman pulled the robe off from Oho and looked at him with a kindly interest. The boy, on his part, was gazing around him in amazement, for never had he dreamed of such magnificent apartment as this in which he stood. The roof of the dome was all of colored glass worked into beautiful designs. The walls were paneled with plates of gold decorated with gems of great size and many colors, and upon the tile floor were soft rugs delightful to walk upon. The furniture was framed in gold and upholstered in satin brocade, and it consisted of easy chairs, divans, and stools in great variety. Also, there were several tables with mirror tops and cabinets filled with rare, curious things. In one place, a case filled with books stood against the wall, and elsewhere Oho saw a cupboard containing all sorts of games. "May I stay here a little while before I go into prison?" asked the boy pleadingly. "Why, this is your prison," replied Tollydiggle. "And in me behold your jailer. Take off those handcuffs, soldier, for it is impossible for anyone to escape from this house." "I know that very well," replied the soldier, and at once unlocked the handcuffs and released the prisoner. The woman touched a button on the wall and lighted a big chandelier that hung suspended from the ceiling. for it was growing dark outside. Then she seated herself at a desk and asked, "What name?" "Oho, the Unlucky," answered the soldier with the green whiskers. "Unlucky? Ah, that accounts for it," said she. "What crime?" "Breaking a law of Oz." "All right, there's your receipt, soldier, and now I'm responsible for the prisoner. I'm glad of it, for this is the first time I've ever had anything to do, in my official capacity," remarked the jailer in a pleased tone. "It's the same with me, Tollydiggle," laughed the soldier. "But my task is finished, and I must go to report to Ozma that I've done my duty like a faithful police force, a loyal army, and an honest bodyguard, as I hope I am." Saying this, he nodded farewell to Tollydiggle and Oho and went away. "Now then," said the woman briskly, "I must get you some supper, for you are doubtless hungry. What would you prefer, planked whitefish, omelet with jelly, or mutton chops with gravy?" Oho thought about it, then he said, "I'll take the chops, if you please." "Very well, amuse yourself while I'm gone, I won't be long." And then she went out by the door and left the prisoner alone. Oho was much astonished, for not only was this unlike any prison he had ever heard of, but he was being treated more as a guest than a criminal. There were many windows, and they had no locks. There were 3 doors to the room, and none were bolted. He cautiously opened one of the doors and found it led into a hallway, but he had no intention of trying to escape. If his jailer was willing to trust him in this way, he would not betray her trust, and moreover, a hot supper was being prepared for him, and his prison was very pleasant and comfortable. So he took a book from the case and sat down in a big chair to look at the pictures. This amused him until the woman came in with a large tray and spread out a cloth on one of the tables. Then she arranged his supper, which proved the most varied and delicious meal Oho had ever eaten in his life. Tollydiggle sat near him while he ate, sewing on some fancy work she held in her lap. When he had finished, she cleared the table, and then read him a story from one of the books. "Is this really a prison?" he asked, when she had finished reading. "Indeed it is," she replied. "It's the only prison in the land of Oz." "And I'm a prisoner?" "Bless the child, of course." "Then why is the prison so fine, and why are you so kind to me?" he earnestly asked. Tollydiggle seemed surprised by the question, but she presently answered, "We consider a prisoner unfortunate. He is unfortunate in 2 ways, because he has done something wrong, and because he is deprived of his liberty. Therefore we should treat him kindly, because of his misfortune, for otherwise he would become hard and bitter, and would not be sorry he had done wrong. Ozma thinks that one who has committed a fault did so because he was not strong and brave. Therefore she puts him in a prison to make him strong and brave. When that is accomplished, he is no longer a prisoner, but a good and loyal citizen, and everyone is glad that he is now strong enough to resist doing wrong. You see, it is kindness that makes one strong and brave, and so we are kind to our prisoners." Oho thought this over very carefully. "I had an idea," he said, "that prisoners were always treated harshly to punish them." "That would be dreadful!" cried Tollydiggle. "Isn't one punished enough in knowing he has done wrong? Don't you wish, Oho, with all your heart, that you had not been disobedient and broken the law of Oz?" I I hate to be different from other people," he admitted. "Yes, one likes to be respected as highly as his neighbors are," said the woman. "When you are tried and found guilty, you will be obliged to make amends, in some way. I don't know just what Ozma will do to you, because this is the first time one of us has broken a law. But you may be sure she will be just and merciful. Here in the Emerald City, people are too happy and contented ever to do wrong. But perhaps you came from some faraway corner of our land, and having no love for Ozma, carelessly broke one of her laws." "Yes," said Oho. "I've lived all my life in the heart of the lonely forest, where no one but dear Unc Nunkie. Where I saw no one but dear Unc Nunkie." "I thought so," said Tollydiggle. "But now we have talked enough, so let us play a game until bedtime." "Well, that sounds lovely, doesn't it?" "We're in bed soon, enjoying story time. Sorry for I lost Dragon Wolf, lost my brother 2 weeks ago. I understand your pain." "Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, D. And you know I'm real here for you, always here for you, brother." 8 years of this, I'm going crazy. Safe place, no need to be sorry about venting here, absolutely. Raphilosophy, it's good to see you, brother. Like stream, by the way, I appreciate you. All the likes are welcome. Yep, I'm always here for you, D. We be family here. So with that, that's the end of chapter 15. I'm going to refresh my coffee real quick. Really appreciate you guys spending your Monday nights here with me. If you had the day off from work, I hope you had a good day off. I had the day off from work. Got to work on a lot of art. Got to draw a Magikarp for the first time. That was kind of fun. As a stronger flame, absolutely. I know that's exactly my mindset with the Mama Ghost. Heard myths and legends about it. Yeah, it's where people are, their jobs know they have lives, so they want to give them their holiday off, paid. Just notice Yoda. Yeah, he's always got my back. All right, chapter 16. We're going to visit somebody we're all familiar with in this story, Dorothy. Princess Dorothy. Dorothy Gale was sitting in one of her rooms in the royal palace, while curled up at her feet was a little black dog with a shaggy coat and very bright eyes. She wore a plain white frock, without any jewels or other ornaments except an emerald green hair ribbon. For Dorothy was a simple little girl and had not been in the least spoiled by the magnificence surrounding her. Once the child had lived on in Kansas prairies, but she seemed marked for adventure, for she had made several trips to the land of Oz before she came to live there for good. Her very best friend was the beautiful Ozma of Oz, who loved Dorothy so well that she kept her in her own palace, so as to be near her. The girl's Uncle Henry and Aunt Em, the only relatives she had in the world, had also been brought here by Ozma and given a pleasant home. Dorothy knew almost everybody in Oz, and it was she who had discovered the Scarecrow, the Tin Woodman, and the Cowardly Lion, as well as Tick-Tock and the Clockwork Man. Tick-Tock, the Clockwork Man. Her life was very pleasant now, and although she had been made Princess of Oz by her friend Ozma, she did not care much to be princess and remained as sweet as when she had been a plain Dorothy Gale of Kansas. Dorothy was reading a book this evening when Jellia Jam, the favorite servant maid of the palace, came to say the Shaggy Man wanted to see her. "All right," said Dorothy. "Tell him to come right up." "But he has some queer creatures with him, some of the queerest I have ever laid eyes on," reported Jellia. "Never mind, let them all come up," replied Dorothy. But when the door opened to admit not only the Shaggy Man, but Scraps, the Woozy, and the Glass Cat, Dorothy jumped up and looked at her strange visitors in amazement. The Patchwork Girl was the most curious of all, and Dorothy was uncertain at first whether Scraps was really alive or only a dream or nightmare. Toto, her dog, slowly uncurled himself and going to the Patchwork Girl, sniffed at her inquiringly. But soon he laid down again, as if to say he had no interest in such irregular creation. "You're a new one to me," Dorothy said reflectively, addressing the Patchwork Girl. "I can't imagine where you come from." "Who, me?" asked Scraps, looking around the pretty room instead of at the girl. "Oh, I come from a bed quilt, I guess. That's what they say, anyhow. Some call it a crazy quilt, and some call it a patchwork quilt. But my name's Scraps, and now you know all about me." "Not quite all," returned Dorothy with a smile. "I wish you'd tell me how you came to be alive." "That's an easy job," said Scraps, sitting upon a big upholstered chair and making the springs bounce her up and down. "Margaret wanted a slave, so she made me out of an old bed quilt she didn't use. Cotton stuffing, suspender button eyes, red velvet tongue, pearl beads for teeth. The crooked magician made a powder of life, sprinkled me with it, and here I am. Perhaps you've noticed my different colors? I'm very refined and educated gentleman named the Scarecrow, whom I met, told me I'm the most beautiful creature in all of Oz, and I believe it." "Oh, have you met our Scarecrow, then?" asked Dorothy, a little puzzled to understand the brief history related. Yes, isn't he jolly?" "The Scarecrow has many good qualities," replied Dorothy, "but I am sorry to hear all about this crooked magician. Ozma'll be mad as hops when she hears he's been doing magic again. She told him not to." "He only practices magic for the benefit of his own family," explained Bungle, who was keeping the most respectful distance from the little black dog. "Dear me," said Dorothy, "I hadn't noticed you before. Are you glass or what?" "I am glass and transparent too, which is more than can be said of some folk," answered the cat. "Also, I have some lovely pink brains. You can see 'em work?" "Oh, is that so? Come over here and let me see." The glass cat hesitated, eyeing the dog. "Send that beast away, and I will," she said. "Beast? Why, that's just my dog Toto, and he's the kindest dog in all the world. Toto knows a good many things, too, most much as I do, I guess." "Why doesn't he say anything?" asked Bungle. "He can't talk, not being a fairy dog," explained Dorothy. "He's just a common United States dog. But that's a good deal, and I understand him, and he understands me just as well as if he could talk." Toto at this got up and rubbed his head softly against Dorothy's hand, which she held out to him, and he looked up into her face as if he understood every word she had said. "This cat, Toto," she said to him, "is made of glass, so you mustn't bother it or chase it any more than you do my pink kitten. It's probably brittle and might break if bumped against anything." "Woof!" said Toto, and that meant he understood. The glass cat was so proud of her pink brains that she ventured to come close to Dorothy in order that the girl might see him work. This is really interesting, but when Dorothy petted the cat, she found the glass cold and hard and unresponsive, so she decided at once that Bungle would never do for a pet. "What do you know about the crooked magician who lives on the mountain?" said Dorothy. "He made me," replied the cat, "so I know all about him. The Patchwork Girl is new, 3 or 4 days old. But I've lived with Dr. Pipt for years, and though I don't much care for him, I will say that he has always refused to work magic for any of the people who came to his house. He thinks there's no harm in doing magic things for his own family, and he made me out of glass because the meat cats drink too much milk. He also made Scraps come to life so she could do the housework for his wife, Margaret." "Then why did you both leave him?" asked Dorothy. "I think you'd better let me explain that," interrupted the Shaggy Man, and he told Dorothy all of Oho's story and how Unc Nunkie and Margaret had accidentally been turned to marble by the liquid of petrification. Then he related how the boy had started out in search of the things needed to make the magic charm, which would restore the unfortunates to life, and how he had found the Woozy and taken him along because he could not pull the 3 hairs out of his tail. Dorothy listened to all of this with much interest, and thought that so far Oho acted very well. But when Shaggy Man told her the Munchkin boy's arrest by the soldiers with green whiskers, because he was accused of willfully breaking the law of Oz, the little girl was greatly shocked. "What do you suppose he's done?" she asked. "I fear he's picked a 6-leaf clover," answered the Shaggy Man sadly. "I didn't see him do it, and I warned him that to do so was against the law. But perhaps that's what he did, nevertheless." "I am sorry about that," said Dorothy gravely, "for now there will be no one to help his poor uncle and Margaret except this Patchwork Girl, the Woozy, and the Glass Cat." "Don't mention it," said Scraps. "That's no affair of mine. Margaret and Unc Nunkie are perfect strangers to me. For the moment I came to life, they came to marble." "I see," remarked Dorothy with a sigh of regret. "The woman forgot to give you a heart." "I'm glad she did," retorted the Patchwork Girl. "A heart must be a great annoyance to one. It makes a person feel sad or sorry or devoted or sympathetic, all of which sensations interfere with one's happiness." "I have a heart," murmured the Glass Cat. "It's made of a ruby, but I don't imagine I shall let it bother me without helping Unc Nunkie and Margaret." "That's a pretty hard heart of yours," said Dorothy, "and the Woozy, of course." "Why, as for me," observed the Woozy, who was reclining on the floor, with his legs doubled under him, so that he looked much like a square box, "I have never seen those unfortunate people you speak of, and yet I am sorry for them. having having at times been unfortunate myself. When I was shut up in that forest, I longed for someone to help me, and by Oho came and did help me. So I'm willing to help his uncle. And I'm only a stupid beast, Dorothy, but I can't help that. And if you'll tell me what to do to help Oho and his uncle, I'll gladly do it." Dorothy walked over and patted the Woozy on his square head. "You're not pretty," she said, "but I like you. What are you able to do? Anything special?" "I can make my eyes flash fire, real fire, when I'm angry. When anyone says Crizzle Crew to get me angry, and then my eyes flash fire." "I don't see as fireworks could help Oho's uncle," remarked Dorothy. "Can he do anything else?" "I I thought I had a very terrifying growl," said the Woozy with hesitation, "but perhaps I was mistaken." "Yes," said the Shaggy Man, "you were certainly wrong about that." Then he turned to Dorothy and added, "What will become of the Munchkin boy?" "I don't know," she said, shaking her head thoughtfully. "Ozma will see him about it, of course, and then she'll punish him, but now I don't know, 'cause no one's ever been punished in Oz since I knew anything about this place. Too bad, Shaggy Man, isn't it?" While they were talking, Scraps had been roaming around the room and looking at all the pretty things it contained. She had carried Oho's basket in her hand until now, when she decided to see what was inside it. She found the bread and cheese, which she had no use for, and the bundle of charms, which were curious but quite a mystery to her. Then, turning these over, she came upon the 6-leaf clover which the boy had plucked. Scraps was quick-witted, and although she had no heart to recognize the fact that Oho was her first friend, she knew at once that because the boy had taken the clover he had been imprisoned, and she understood that Oho had given her the basket so they would not find the clover in his possession and have proof of his crime. So, turning her head to see no one noticed her, she took the clover from the basket and dropped it into the golden vase that stood on Dorothy's table. Then she came forward and said to Dorothy, "I wouldn't care to help Oho's uncle, but I will help Oho. He did not break the law. No one can prove he did, and that green-whiskered soldier had no right to arrest him." "Ozma's ordered the boy's arrest," said Dorothy, "and of course she knew what she was doing. If you can prove Oho is innocent, they will set him free at once." "They'll have to prove him guilty, won't they?" asked Scraps. "I suppose so." "Well, they can't do that," declared the Patchwork Girl. As it was nearly time for Dorothy to dine with Ozma, which she did every evening, she rang for a servant and ordered the Woozy taken to a nice room and given plenty of such food that he liked best. "That's honeybees," said the Woozy. "You can't eat honeybees, but you'll be giving something just as nice," Dorothy told him. Then she had the Glass Cat taken to another room for the night, and the Patchwork Girl she kept in one of her own rooms, for she was much interested in the strange creature and wanted to talk with her again and try to understand her better. We'll be here if you need us. Thank you, Uncle Brangus. Need this drum set right now, but first earplugs for others. Appreciate you. Chill in the music room, put you on the TV and watch and lurk, but need to have music around me right now. Sorry, Uncle Kev. Don't be sorry at all. You do whatever it is that you need to do. You're back? Yes. Don't be sorry at all. Enjoy your music, Leighton. Legos are looking amazing. So those are the 4D models that we were building. Those aren't the Lego. Those are the 4D models that we were building on Thursday. And this is the one that we just finished. But thank you. Appreciate you. All right, still have 15 people up in here. I'm going to be starting chapter 17. I think there's 21 chapters in here. Appreciate you, Dragon Wolf. Chapter 17, we're going to get into Ozma and her friends. The Shaggy Man. Appreciate you, Mystic. The Shaggy Man had a room of his own in the royal palace, so there he went to change his shaggy suit of clothes for another just as shaggy but not so dusty from travel. He selected a costume of pea green and a pink satin and velvet, with embroidered shags on all edges and iridescent pearls for ornaments. Then he bathed in the alabaster pool and brushed his shaggy hair with whiskers the wrong way to make him still more shaggy. This accomplished, he arrayed in his splendid shaggy garments and went to Ozma's banquet hall and found the Scarecrow, the Wizard, and Dorothy already assembled there. The Scarecrow had made a quick trip and returned to the Emerald City with his left ear freshly painted. A moment later, while they all stood in waiting, a servant threw open the door, and the orchestra struck up a tune, and Ozma of Oz entered. Much had been told and written concerning the beauty of a person and character of the sweet girl ruler of the land of Oz, the richest, the happiest, and most delightful fairyland in which we have any knowledge. Yet with all her queenly qualities, Ozma was a real girl and enjoyed the things in life that other real girls enjoy. When she sat on her splendid emerald throne in the great throne room of her palace, and made laws and settled disputes and tried to keep all her subjects happy and contented, she was as dignified and demure as any queen might be. But when she had thrown aside her jeweled robe of state and her scepter, and had retired to her private apartments, the girl, joyous, light-hearted, and free, replaced the sedated ruler. Joyous, light-hearted, and free, replaced the sedate ruler. In the banquet hall tonight were gathered only old and trusted friends, so here Ozma was herself, a mere girl. She greeted Dorothy with a kiss, and Shaggy Man with a smile, and the old wizard with a friendly handshake. And then she pressed the Scarecrow's stuffed arm and cried merrily, "What a lovely left ear! Why, it's 100 times better than the old one." "I'm glad you like it," replied the Scarecrow, well pleased. "Ginger did a neat job, didn't she? And my hearing is now perfect. Isn't it wonderful what a little paint will do, if it's properly applied?" "It is really wonderful," she agreed, as they all took their seats. "But the Sawhorse must have made his legs twinkle to have carried you so far in one day. I didn't expect you back before tomorrow, at the earliest." "Well," said the Scarecrow, "I met a charming girl on the road and wanted to see more of her, so I hurried back." Ozma laughed. "I know," she returned. "It's the Patchwork Girl. She is certainly bewildering, if not strictly beautiful." "Have you seen her, then?" the straw man eagerly asked. "Only in my magic picture, which shows me all the scenes of interest in the land of Oz." "I fear the picture didn't do her justice," said the Scarecrow. "It seemed to me that nothing could be more gorgeous," declared Ozma. "Whoever made the patchwork quilt from which scraps was formed must have selected the gayest and brightest bits of cloth that were ever worn or woven." "I'm glad you like her," said the Scarecrow in a satisfied tone. Although the straw man did not eat, not being made so that he could, he often dined with Ozma and her companions merely for pleasure of talking with them. He sat at the table and had a napkin and plate. But the servants knew better than to offer him food. After a little while he asked, "Where's the Patchwork Girl now?" "In my room," replied Dorothy. "I've taken a fancy to her. She's so queer and uncommon. She's half crazy, I think," added the Shaggy Man. "But she is so beautiful," exclaimed the Scarecrow, as if the fact disarmed all criticism. They all laughed at his enthusiasm, but the Scarecrow was quite serious. Seeing that he was interested in the scraps, they forbore to say anything against her. The little band of friends Ozma had gathered around her was so quaintly assorted that much care must be exercised to avoid hurting their feelings or making any one of them unhappy. It was this considerate kindness that held them close friends and enabled them to enjoy each other's society. Another thing they avoided was conversing on unpleasant subjects, and for that reason Oho and his troubles were not mentioned during the dinner. The Shaggy Man, however, related his adventures with the monstrous plants which had seized and unfolded the travelers, and told how he had robbed Chiss, the giant porcupine, of his quills, in which it was accustomed to throw at people. Both Dorothy and Ozma were pleased with this exploit and thought it served Chiss right. Then they talked of the Woozy, which was the most remarkable animal any of them had ever seen before, except perhaps the live sawhorse. Ozma had never known that her dominions contained such a thing as a Woozy, there being but one existence, and this being confined in his forest for many years. Dorothy said she believed the Woozy was a good beast, honest and faithful, but she added that she did not care much for the glass cat. "Still," said the Shaggy Man, "the glass cat is very pretty. and if she were not so conceited over her pink brains, no one would object to her as a companion. The wizard had been eating silently until now, when he looked up and remarked, "That powder of life, which is made by the crooked magician, is really a wonderful thing. But Dr. Pip does not know its true value, and he uses it in the most foolish ways." "I must see about that," said Ozma gravely. Then she smiled again and continued in a lighter tone. "It was Dr. Pip's famous powder of life that enabled me to become the ruler of Oz." "I never heard that story," said the Shaggy Man, looking at Ozma questioningly. "Well, when I was a baby girl, I was stolen by an old witch named Mombi and transformed into a boy," began the girl ruler. "I did not know who I was, and when I grew big enough to work, the witch made me wait upon her and carry wood for the fire and hoe in the garden. One day she came back from a journey, bringing some of the powder of life which Dr. Pipt had given her. I made some pumpkin-headed man and set it up on the path to frighten her, for I was fond of fun and hated the witch. But she knew what the figure was, and to test her powder of life, she sprinkled some of it on the man that I had made. It came to life, and now it is our dear friend Jack Pumpkinhead. That night I ran away with Jack to escape punishment, and I took old Mombi's powder of life with me. During our journey, we came upon a wooden sawhorse standing by the road, and I used the magic powder to bring it to life. The sawhorse has been with me ever since. When I got to the Emerald City, the good sorceress Glenda knew who I was and restored me to my proper person, when I became a rightful ruler of this land. So you see, had not the old Mombi brought home the powder of life, I might never have run away from her and became Ozma of Oz, nor would we have had Jack Pumpkinhead and the sawhorse to comfort and amuse us." That story interested the Shaggy Man very much, as well as the others who had often heard it before. The dinner being now concluded, they all went to Ozma's drawing room, where they passed a pleasant evening before it came time to retire. Short chapter. Welcome back, Mrs. 5150. I hope you had a good drive. What's up, Schmitty? It's good to see you. Going to bed. Good night, Dragon Wolf. I hope you sleep well. And we are going to get into chapter 18. Oho is forgiven. Excellent. Very kind of you. It's good to have you back. The next morning, the soldier with the green whiskers went to the prison and took Oho away to the royal palace, where he was summoned to appear before the girl ruler for judgment. Again, the soldier put upon the boy in the jeweled handcuffs and white prisoner's robe with the peak top and holes for the eyes. Oho was so ashamed both of his disgrace and his fault he had committed that he was glad to be covered up in this way so that people could not see him or know who he was. He followed the soldier with green whiskers very willingly, anxious that his fate might be decided as soon as possible. The inhabitants of the Emerald City were polite people and never jeered at the unfortunate, but it was so long since they had seen a prisoner that they cast many curious looks towards the boy, and many of them hurried away to the royal palace to be present during the trial. When Oho was escorted to the great throne room of the palace, he found hundreds of people assembled there. In the magnificent emerald throne, which sparkled with countless jewels, sat Ozma of Oz in her robe of state, which was embroidered with emeralds and pearls. On her right, but a little lower, was Dorothy, and on her left was the Scarecrow, still lower. But nearly in front of Ozma sat a wonderful Wizard of Oz, and on a small table beside him was the golden vase from Dorothy's room, in which Scraps had dropped the stolen clover. At Ozma's feet crouched two enormous beasts, each the largest and most powerful of its kind. Although these beasts were quite free, no one present was alarmed by them, for the Cowardly Lion and the Hungry Tiger were well known and respected in the Emerald City, and they always guarded the ruler when she held high court in the throne room. There was still another beast present, but this one Dorothy held in her arms, for it was her constant companion, the little dog Toto. Toto knew the Cowardly Lion and the Hungry Tiger and often played and romped with them, for they were good friends. Seated on ivory chairs before Ozma, with a clear space between them and the throne, were many of the nobility of the Emerald City, lords and ladies in beautiful costumes, and officials of the kingdom in the royal uniforms of Oz. Behind these courtiers were other of less importance, filling in the great hall to the very doors. At the same moment that the soldier with the green whiskers arrived with Oho, the Shaggy Man entered from the side door, escorting the Patchwork Girl, the Woozy, and the Glass Cat. All these came to the vacant space before the throne and stood facing the ruler. "Hello, Oho," said Scraps. "How are you?" "All right," he replied, but the scene awed the boy, and his voice trembled a little with fear. Nothing could awe the Patchwork Girl, and although the Woozy was somewhat uneasy in the splendid surroundings, the Glass Cat was delighted with the sumptuousness of the court and impressiveness of the occasion. Pretty big words for quite expressive. Pretty big words, but quite expressive. At a sign from Ozma, the soldier removed Oho's white robe, and the boy stood face to face with the girl who had decided his punishment. He saw at a glance how lovely and sweet she was, and his heart gave a bound of joy, for he hoped she would be merciful. Ozma sat looking at the prisoner a long time, and then she said gently, "One of the laws of Oz forbids anyone to pick a six-leaf clover. You are accused of having broken this law even after you had been warned not to do so." Oho hung his head, and while he hesitated how to reply, the Patchwork Girl stepped forward and spoke for him. "All this fuss about nothing at all," she said, facing Ozma unabashed. "You can't prove he picked the six-leaf clover, so you have no right to accuse him of it. Search him if you'd like, but you won't find it. The clover, look in his basket, and you'll find it's not there. He hasn't got it, so I demand you set this poor Munchkin boy free." The people of Oz listened to this defiance in amazement, and wondered at the queer Patchwork Girl who dared talk so boldly to the ruler. But Ozma sat silently and motionless, and it was the little wizard who answered Scraps. "So the clover hasn't been picked, eh?" he said. "I think it has. I think the boy hid it in his basket and then gave the basket to you. I also think you dropped the clover into this vase, which stood in Princess Dorothy's room, hoping to get rid of it so you could not prove the boy's guilty. You're a stranger here, Miss Patches, and so you don't know that nothing can be hidden from our powerful ruler's magic picture, nor from the watchful eyes of the humble Wizard of Oz. Look, all of you." With these words, he waved his hand towards the vase on the table, which Scraps now noticed for the first time. From the mouth of the vase, a plant sprouted, slowly growing before their eyes until it became a beautiful bush, and on the topmost branch appeared the six-leaf clover in which Oho had unfortunately picked. The Patchwork Girl looked at the clover and said, "Oh, so you found it. Very well. Prove he picked it if you can." Ozma turned to Oho. "Did you pick the six-leaf clover?" she asked. "Yes," he replied. "I knew it was against the law, but I wanted to save Unc Nunky, and I was afraid if you asked your consent to pick it, you would refuse me." "What caused you to think that?" asked the ruler. "Why, it seemed to me a foolish law, just unjust and unreasonable. Even now I can see no harm in picking a six-leaf clover, and I had not seen the Emerald City then, nor you, and I thought a girl who would make such a silly law could not be likely to help anyone in trouble." Ozma regarded him musingly, her chin resting upon her hand. But she was not angry. On the contrary, she smiled a little at her thoughts and then grew sober again. "I suppose a good many laws seem foolish to those people who do not understand them," she said. "But no law is ever made without some purpose, and that purpose is usually to protect all the people and guard their welfare. As you are a stranger, I will explain this law, which you seems foolish. Years ago, there were many witches and magicians in the land of Oz, and one of the things they often used in making their magic charms and transformation was a six-leaf clover. These witches and magicians caused so much trouble among my people, often using their powers for evil rather than good, that I decided to forbid anyone from practicing magic or sorcery except Glinda the Good and her assistant, the Wizard of Oz, both of whom I can trust to use their arts only to benefit my people and to make them happier. Since I issued that law, the land of Oz has been far more peaceful and quiet. But I learned that some of the witches and magicians were still practicing magic on the sly and using the six-leaf clovers to make their potions and charms. Therefore, I made another law forbidding anyone from plucking a six-leaf clover or from gathering other plants and herbs which the witches boil into their kettles and work magic with. That has almost put an end to the wicked sorcery in our land. So you see, the law is not a foolish one, but a wise and just. And in any event, it is wrong to disobey a law. Oho knew she was right, and felt greatly mortified to realize he had acted and spoken so ridiculously. But he raised his head and looked Ozma in the face, saying, "I am sorry I have acted wrongly and broken your law. I did it to save Unc Nunkie, and I thought it would not be found out. But I am guilty of this act, and whatever punishment you think I deserve, I will suffer willingly." Ozma smiled more brightly then and nodded graciously. "You are forgiven," she said, "for although you have committed a serious fault, you are now penitent, and I think you have been punished enough. Soldier, release Oho the Lucky, and I beg your pardon, I'm Oho the Unlucky," said the boy. "At this moment you are lucky," said she. "Release him, soldier, and let him go free." The people were glad to hear Ozma's decree and murmured their approval. As the royal audience is now over, they began to leave the throne room, and soon there were none remaining except Oho and his friends and Ozma and her favorites. The girl ruler now asked Oho to sit down and tell her all of his story, which he did, beginning at the time he had left his home in the forest and ending with his arrival at the Emerald City and his arrest. Ozma listened attentively and was thoughtful for some moments after the boy had finished speaking. Then she said, "The crooked magician was wrong to make the glass cat and the patchwork girl, for it is against the law. And if he had not unlawfully kept the bottle of liquid petrification standing on his shelf, the accident to his wife Margaret and Unc Nunkie could not have occurred. I can understand, however, that Oho, who loves his uncle, will be unhappy unless he can save him. Also, I feel it is wrong to leave those two victims standing as marble statues, when they ought to be alive. So I propose we will allow Dr. Pip to make the magic charm which will save them, and that we assist Oho to find the things he is seeking. What do you think, wizard?" "That is perhaps the best thing to do," replied the wizard. "But after the crooked magician has restored those poor people to life, you must take away his magic powers." "I will," promised Ozma. "Now tell me, please, what magic things must you find?" continued Wizard, addressing Oho. "The 3 hairs from the Woozy's tail I have," said the boy. "That is, I have the Woozy, and the hairs are in his tail. The 6-leaf clover, you may take it and keep it," said Ozma. "That will not be breaking the law, for it is already picked, and the crime of picking is forgiven." "Thank you," cried Oho gratefully. Then he continued, "The next thing I must find is the gill of water from a dark well." The wizard shook his head. "That," said he, "will be a hard task, but if you travel far enough, you may discover it." "I'm willing to travel for years if it will save Unc Nunkie," declared Oho earnestly. "Then you'd better begin your journey at once," advised the wizard. Dorothy had been listening with interest to the conversation. Now she turned to Ozma and asked, "May I go with Oho to help him?" "Would you like to?" returned Ozma. "Yes, I know Oz pretty well, but Oho doesn't know it at all. I'm sorry for his uncle and poor Margaret, and I'd like to help save them. May I go?" "If you wish to," replied Ozma. "If Dorothy goes, then I must go to take care of her," said the Scarecrow decidedly. "A dark well can only be discovered in some out-of-the-way place, and there may be dangers there." "You have my permission to accompany Dorothy," said Ozma, "and while you are gone I will take care of the Patchwork Girl." "I'll take care of myself," announced Scraps, "for I'm going with the Scarecrow and Dorothy. I promised Oho to help him find the things he needs, and I'll stick to my promise." "Very well," replied Ozma, "but I see no need for Oho to take the glass cat and the Woozy." "I prefer to remain here," said the cat. "I've nearly been nicked half a dozen times already, and if they're going into dangers, it's best for me to keep away from them." "Let Jellia Jam keep her until Oho returns," suggested Dorothy. We won't need the Woozy either, but he ought to be saved because of the 3 hairs in his tail." "Better take me along," said the Woozy. "My eyes can flash fire, you know, and I can growl a little." I'm sure you will be safer here, Ozma decided, and the Woozy made no further objection to the plan. After consulting together, they decided that Oho and his party should leave the very next day to search for the gill from the water of the dark well. So, they now separated to make preparations for the journey. Ozma gave the Munchkin boy a room in the palace for that night, and the afternoon he passed with Dorothy, getting acquainted, as she said, and receiving advice from the Shaggy Man as to where they must go. The Shaggy Man had wandered in many parts of Oz, and so had Dorothy, for that matter, yet neither of them knew where the dark well was to be found. "If such a thing is anywhere in the settled parts of Oz," said Dorothy, "we'd probably have heard of it long ago. If it's in the wild parts of the country, no one there would need the dark well. Perhaps there isn't such a thing." "Oh, there must be," returned Oho, positively. "Or else the recipe of Dr. Pip wouldn't call for it." "That's true," agreed Dorothy. "And if it's anywhere in the land of Oz, we're bound to find it." "Well, we're bound to search for it anyhow," said the Scarecrow. "As for finding it, we must trust our luck." "Don't do that," begged Oho earnestly. "I'm called Oho the Unlucky, you know." 25. Let's go. Appreciate you guys. Good night, fam. Thanks again, Kev. Absolutely art of Pokemon. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your night. So you read to people in store. Appreciate y'all. Still 13 people here. We're coming to the end of the book. We're on chapter 19, which is Trouble with the Tottenhots. 42%. I think we'll make it. Trouble with the Tottenhots. You love story time. Appreciate you. A day's travel from the Emerald City brought the little band of adventurers to the home of Jack Pumpkinhead, which was a house formed from the shell of an immense pumpkin. Jack had made himself, and it was very proud of it. There was a door and several windows, and through the top was stuck a stovepipe that led from a small stove inside. The door was reached by a fleet of 3 steps, and there was a good floor on which to arrange some furniture that was quite comfortable. It is certain that Jack Pumpkinhead might have had a much finer house to live in if he had wanted it, for Ozma loved the stupid fellow, who had been her earliest companion. But Jack preferred his pumpkin house, and it matched himself very well, and in this he was not so stupid after all. The body of this remarkable person was made of wood, branches of trees of various sizes having been used for the purpose. This wooden framework was covered by a red shirt with white spots in it, blue trousers, a yellow vest, a jacket of green and gold, and stout leather shoes. The neck was a sharpened stick in which the pumpkin head was set, and the eyes, ears, nose, and mouth were carved on the skin of the pumpkin, very much like a child's jack-o'-lantern. The house of this interesting creation stood in the center of the vast pumpkin field, where the vines grew in profusion and bore pumpkins of extraordinary size, as well as those which were smaller. Some of the pumpkins now ripening on the vines were almost as large as Jack's house, and he told Dorothy he intended to add another pumpkin to his mansion. The travelers were cordially welcomed to this quaint domicile and invited to pass the night there, which they had planned to do. The Patchwork Girl was greatly interested in Jack and examined him admiringly. "You are quite handsome," she said, "but not as really beautiful as the Scarecrow." Jack turned at this to examine the Scarecrow critically, and his old friend shyly winked one painted eye at him. "There is no accounting for taste," remarked Pumpkinhead with a sigh. "An old crow once told me I was very fascinating, but of course the bird might have been mistaken. Yet I have noticed that the crows usually avoid the Scarecrow, who is a very honest fellow in his way, a very honest fellow in his way, but stuffed. I'm not stuffed. You will observe my body is good solid hickory." "I adore stuffing," said the Patchwork Girl. "Well, as for that, my head is stuffed with pumpkin seeds," declared Jack. "I use them for brains, and when they are fresh I am intellectual. Just now I regret to say my seeds are rattling a bit, so I must soon get another head." "Oh, do you change your head?" asked Oho. And to be sure, pumpkins are not permanent. More's the pity, and in time they soil. That is why I grow such a great field of pumpkins, that I may select a new head whenever necessary. Who carves the faces on them? Inquired the boy. I do that myself. I lift off my old head, place it on a table before me, and use the face for a pattern to go by. Sometimes the faces I carve are better than others, more expressive and cheerful, but I think they average very well. Before she had started on the journey, Dorothy had packed a knapsack with the things she might need, and this knapsack the Scarecrow carried strapped to his back. The little girl wore a plain gingham dress with a checkered sunbonnet, as she knew they were best fitted for travel. Oho also brought along his basket, to which Ozma had added a bottle of square meal tablets and some fruit. But Jack Pumpkinhead grew a lot of things in his garden besides pumpkins, so he cooked for them a fine vegetable soup and gave Dorothy, Oho, and Toto, the only ones who found it necessary to eat, a pumpkin pie and some green cheese. For beds, they must use the sweet dried grasses which Jack had sown along one side of the room, but that satisfied Dorothy and Oho very well. Toto, of course, slept beside his little mistress. The Scarecrow, Scraps, and the Pumpkinhead were tireless and had no need to sleep, so they sat up and talked together all night. But they stayed outside the house, under the bright stars, and talked in low tones as to not disturb the sleepers. During the conversation, the Scarecrow explained their quest for the Dark Well and asked Jack's advice as where to find it. The Pumpkinhead considered the matter gravely. That is going to be a difficult task, said he, and if I were you, I'd take any ordinary well and enclose it, so as to make it dark. I fear that won't do, replied Scarecrow. The well must be naturally dark, and the water must never have seen the light of day, for otherwise the magic charm might not work at all. How much of the water do you need? Asked Jack. A gill. How much is a gill? Why, a gill is a gill, of course, answered the Scarecrow, who did not wish to display his ignorance. I know, said Scraps. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch— No, that's wrong, interrupted the Scarecrow. There are two kinds of gills, I think. One is a girl, the other is— A gillyflower? Said Jack. No, a measure. How big a measure? Well, I'll ask Dorothy. So the next morning they asked Dorothy, and she said, I don't just know how much a gill is, but I've brought along a gold flask that holds a pint. That's more than a gill, I'm sure, and the crooked magician may measure it to suit himself. But the thing that's bothering us most, Jack, is to find the well. Jack gazed around the landscape, for he was standing in the doorway of his house. This is a flat country, so you won't find any dark wells here, said he. You must go into the mountains, where the rocks and caverns are. And where's that? Asked Oho. In the Quadling country, which lies to the south of here, replied the Scarecrow. I've known all along that we must go to the mountains. So have I, said Dorothy. But goodness me, the Quadling country is full of dangers, declared Jack. I've never been there myself, but I have, said the Scarecrow, and I faced the dreadful hammerheads, which have no arms and butt you like a goat, and I've faced the fighting trees, which bend down their branches to pound and whip you, and I have many other adventures there. It's a wild country, remarked Dorothy soberly, and if we go there, you'll be sure to have troubles of our own. But I guess we'll have to go, if we want that gill of water from the dark well. So they said goodbye to the Pumpkinhead, and resumed their travels, heading now directly towards the South Country, where the mountains and the rocks and caverns and forests of great trees abounded. This part of the land of Oz, while it belonged to Ozma and owed her allegiance, was so wild and secluded that many queer people hid in its jungles and lived in their very own way, without even a knowledge that they had a ruler in the Emerald City. If they were left alone, these creatures never troubled the inhabitants of the rest of Oz, but those who invaded their domains encountered many dangers from them. It was 2 days' journey from Jack Pumpkinhead's house to the edge of the Quadling country, for neither Dorothy nor Oho could walk very fast, and they often stopped by the wayside to rest. The first night they slept on the broad fields among the buttercups and daisies, and the Scarecrow covered the children with a gauze blanket taken from his knapsack, so they wouldn't be chilled by the night air. Toward evening of the second day they reached the sandy plain, where walking was difficult, but some distance before them they saw a group of palm trees with many curious black dots under them. So they trudged bravely on to reach the place by dark and spent the night under the shelter of the trees. The black dots grew larger as they advanced, and although the light was dim, Dorothy thought they looked like big kettles turned upside down. Just beyond this place, a jumble of huge, jagged rocks lay scattered, rising on the mountains behind them. Our travelers preferred to attempt to climb these rocks by daylight, and they realized that for a time this would be their last night on the plains. Twilight had fallen by that time. They had come to the trees, beneath which they were black, circular objects they had marked from a distance. Dozens of them were scattered around, and Dorothy bent near to one, which was about as tall as she was, to examine it more closely. As she did so, the top flew open and out popped a dusky creature, rising its length into the air and then plopping down upon the ground just beside the little girl. Another and another popped out of the circular pot-like dwelling, while from all the other black objects came popping more creatures, very like jumping jacks, with their boxes unhooked, until fully 100 stood gathered around our little group of travelers. By this time, Dorothy discovered they were people, tiny and curiously formed, but still people. Their skins were dusky, and their hair stood straight up like wires, and was brilliant scarlet in color. Their bodies were bare, except the skins fastened around their waist, and they wore bracelets on their ankles and wrists and necklace, and great pendant earrings. Toto crouched beside his mistress and wailed as if he did not like these strange creatures a bit. Scraps began to mutter something about hoppity poppity jumpity jump, but no one paid any attention to her. Oho kept close to the Scarecrow, and the Scarecrow kept close to Dorothy, but the little girl turned to the queer creatures and asked, Who are you?" They answered this question all together in a sort of chanting chorus, the words being as follows: "We are the jolly Truntenhots, we do not like the day, but in the night 'tis our delight to gambol, skip, and play. We hate the sun, and from it run, the moon is cool and clear, so on the spot each Trottenhot waits for it to appear. We're every one chock full of fun, and full of mischief too, but if you're gay and with us play, we'll do no harm to you." "Glad to meet you, Trottenhots," said the Scarecrow solemnly, "but you mustn't expect us to play with you all night, for we've traveled all day and some of us are tired." "And we never gamble," added the Patchwork Girl. "It's against the law." These remarks were greeted with shouts of laughter by the impish creatures, and one seized Scarecrow's arm and was astonished to find the straw man whirl around so easily. So the Trottenhot raised the Scarecrow high into the air and tossed him over the heads of the crowd. Someone caught him and tossed him back, and so with shouts of glee they continued throwing Scarecrow here and there as if he'd been a basketball. Presently another imp seized Scraps and began to throw her about in the same way. They found her a little heavier than the Scarecrow, but still light enough to be tossed like a sofa cushion. And they enjoyed the sport immensely, when Dorothy, angry and indignant at the treatment of her friends were receiving, rushed among the Trottenhots and began slapping and pushing them until she had rescued Scarecrow and the Patchwork Girl, held them close to either side of her. Perhaps she would not have accomplished this victory so easily had not Toto helped her, barking and snapping at the bare legs of the imps until they were glad to flee from his attack. As for Oho, some of the creatures had attempted to toss him also, but finding his body too heavy, they threw him to the ground, and a row of the imps sat on him and held him from assisting Dorothy in her battle. The little brown folk were much surprised to be being attacked by the girl and the dog, and one or two who had been slapped hardest began to cry. Then suddenly they gave a shout all together, and disappeared in a flash into their various houses, the tops of which closed with a series of pops and sounded like a bunch of firecrackers being exploded. The adventurers now found themselves alone, and Dorothy asked anxiously, "Is anybody hurt?" "Not me," answered the Scarecrow. "They have given my straw a good shaking up and taken all the lumps out of it. I am now in splendid condition, and am really obliged to the Trottenhots for their kind treatment." "I feel much the same way," said Scraps. "My cotton stuffing has sagged a good deal with the day's walking, and they've loosened it up until I feel about as plump as a sausage. But the play was a little rough, and I had quite enough of it when you interfered." "6 of them sat on me," said Oho, "but as they're so little, they didn't hurt me much." Just then the roof of the house in front of them opened, and the Trottenhot stuck his head out very cautiously and looked at the strangers. "Can't you take a joke?" he asked reproachfully. "Haven't you any fun in you at all?" "If I had such a quality," replied the Scarecrow, "your people would have knocked it out of me. But I don't bear grudges. I forgive you." "So do I," added Scraps. "That is, if you behave yourselves after this." "It is just a little rough house, that's all," said the Trottenhot. "But the question is not if we will behave, but if you will behave. We can't be shut up here all night, because this is our time to play, nor do we care to come out and be chewed up by a savage beast or slapped by an angry girl. That slapping hurts like 60. Some of my folk are crying about it. So here's the proposition. You let us alone, and we'll let you alone." "You began it," declared Dorothy. "Well, you ended it. So we won't argue the matter. We may come out. May we come out again, or are you still cruel and slappy?" "Tell you what we'll do," said Dorothy. "We're all tired and want to sleep until morning. If you'll let us get into your house and stay there until daylight, you can play outside all you want to." "That's a bargain!" cried the Tottenhot eagerly, and he gave a queer whistle and brought his people popping out of their houses on all sides. When the house before them was vacant, Dorothy and Oho leaned over the hole and looked in, but could barely see nothing because it was so dark. But if the Tottenhots slept in here all day, the children thought they could sleep in there at night. So Oho lowered himself down and found it was not very deep. "There's a soft cushion all over," he said. "Come in." Dorothy handed Toto to the boy and then climbed in herself. After her came Scraps and the Scarecrow, who did not wish to sleep but preferred to keep out of the way of the mischievous Tottenhots. There seemed no furniture in the round den, but soft cushions were strewn about the floor, and these, they found, made of very comfortable beds. They did not close the hole in the roof, but left it open to admit the air. It also admitted the shouts and the ceaseless laughter of the impish Tottenhots as they played outside. But Dorothy and Oho, being weary from their journey, were soon fast asleep. Toto kept an eye open, however, and uttered low, threatening growls whenever a racket made by the creatures outside came too boisterous. And the Scarecrow and Patchwork Girl sat leaning against the wall and talked in whispers all night long. No one disturbed the travelers until daylight, when in popped the Tottenhot who owns the place and invited them to vacate his premises. Hey, go Spencer, how's it going? 25 likes, let's go. Lovely Lori. I think we're coming to the end. I think there's 21 chapters. We're in chapter 20 now. I think. We'll see. We're about an hour and a half into it. Making good time. Let me know in the chat if you all are still awake, if you're enjoying the story at all. It's starting to get a little bit good. Hoping they can find this gill of water from the dark well. Chapter 20, The Captive Youp. As they were preparing to leave, Dorothy asked, "Can you tell us where there's a dark well?" "Never heard of such a thing," said the Tottenhot. "We live our lives in the dark mostly, and sleep in the daytime, but we've never seen a dark well or anything like one." "Does anyone live on those mountains beyond here?" asked the Scarecrow. "Lots of people, but you better not visit them. We never go there," was the reply. "But what are the people like?" Dorothy inquired. "Can't say. We've been told to keep away from the mountain paths, and so we obey. This sandy desert is good enough for us. And we're not disturbed here," declared the Tottenhot. So they left the man snuggling down into sleep in his dusky dwelling and went out into the sunshine, taking the path that led towards the rocky places. They soon found it hard climbing, for the rocks were uneven and full of sharp points and edges, and now there was no path at all. Clambering here and there among the boulders, they kept steadily on, gradually rising higher and higher, until finally they came to a great rift in the part of the mountain where the rocks seemed to have split in two and left high walls on either side. "Suppose we go this way," suggested Dorothy. "It's much easier walking than to climb over hills." "How about that sign?" asked Oho. "What sign?" she inquired. The Munchkin boy pointed to some words painted on the wall of rock beside them, which Dorothy had not noticed. The words read, "Look out for Youp." The girl eyed the sign a moment and turned to the Scarecrow, asking, Who is Yoop, or what is Yoop? The straw man shook his head, and then looked at Toto, and the dog said, Woof! Only way to find out is to go on, said Scraps. This being quite true, they went on. As they proceeded, the walls of rocks on either side grew higher and higher. Presently they came upon another sign, which read, Beware the captive Yoop. Why, as for that, remarked Dorothy, if Yoop is a captive, there's no need to beware of him. Whatever Yoop happens to be, I'd much rather him be a captive than running around loose. So had I, agreed the Scarecrow with a nod of his painted head. Still, said Scraps reflectively, Yoop de hoop de loop de goop. Who puts noodles in my soup? We may beware, but we don't care, and dare to go, we scare the Yoop. Dear me, aren't you feeling a little queer just now? Dorothy asked the Patchwork Girl. Not queer, but crazy, said Oho. When she says those things, I'm sure her brains get mixed somehow and work the wrong way. I don't see why we were told to beware the Yoop unless he is dangerous, observed the Scarecrow in a puzzled tone. Never mind. We'll find out all about him when we get to where he is, replied the little girl. The narrow canyon turned and twisted this way and that, and the rift was so small that they were able to touch both walls at the same time by stretching out their arms. Toto had run on ahead, frisking playfully, when suddenly he uttered a sharp bark of fear and came running back to them with his tail between his legs, as dogs do when they are frightened. Ah, said the Scarecrow, who was leading the way, we must be near Yoop. Just then, as he rounded a sharp turn, the straw man stopped so suddenly that the others bumped against him. What is it? Asked Dorothy, standing on tiptoes to look over his shoulder. But then she saw what it was and cried, Oh! In a cry of astonishment. In one of the rock walls, that at their left, was hollowed a great cavern, in front of which was a row of thick iron bars, the tops and bottoms being firmly fixed into the solid rock. Over this cavern was a big sign, which Dorothy read with much curiosity, speaking the words aloud that all might know what they said. Mr. Yoop, his cave, the largest untamed giant in captivity, height 21 feet, and yet he has but 2 feet. Weight 1,640 pounds, but he waits all the time. Age 400 years and up, as they say in the department store advertisement. Temper fierce and ferocious, except when asleep. Appetite ravenous, prefers meat, people, and orange marmalade. Strangers approaching this cave do so at their own peril. P.S. Don't feed the giant yourself. Very well, said Oho with a sigh. Let's go back. But that's a long way back, declared Dorothy. So it is, remarked the Scarecrow, and it means a tedious climb over those sharp rocks if we can't use this passage. I think it will be best to run by the giant's cave as fast as we can go. Mr. Yoop seems to be asleep just now. But the giant wasn't asleep. He suddenly appeared in front of his cavern, seized the iron bars by its great hairy hands, and shook them until they rattled in their sockets. Yoop was so tall that our friends had to tip their heads way back to look into his face. And they noticed he was dressed in all pink velvet, with silver buttons and braid. The giant's boots were of pink leather, and his hand and had tassels on them, and his hat was decorated with an enormous pink ostrich feather, carefully curled. Yo-ho! He said in a deep bass voice. I smell dinner. I think you are mistaken, replied the Scarecrow. There is no orange marmalade around here. Ah, but I eat other things, asserted Mr. Yoop. That is, I eat them when I can get them. But this is a lonely place, and no good meat has passed by my cave for many years. I am hungry. Haven't you eaten anything in many years? Asked Dorothy. Nothing except 6 ants and a monkey. I thought the monkey would taste like meat people, but the flavor was different. I hope you will taste better, for you seem plump and tender. Oh, I'm not going to be eaten, said Dorothy. Why not? I shall keep out of your way, she answered. How heartless, wailed the giant, shaking the bars again. Consider how many years it is since I've eaten a single plump little girl. They tell me meat is going up, and if I can manage to catch you, I'm sure it will be going down, and I'll catch you if I can. With this, the giant pushed his big arms, which looked like tree trunks, except that tree trunks don't wear pink velvet, between the iron bars, and the arms were so long that they touched the opposite wall of the rock passage. Then he extended them as far as he could to reach towards our travelers, and found he could almost touch the scarecrow, but not quite. "Come a little nearer, please," begged the giant. "I'm a scarecrow." "A scarecrow? Ugh, I don't care for a straw. I don't care a straw for a scarecrow. Who is that bright-colored delicacy behind you?" "Me?" asked Scraps. "I'm a patchwork girl, and I'm stuffed with cotton." "Dear me," sighed the giant in a disappointed tone. "That reduces my dinner from 4 to 2. And the dog? I'll save the dog for dessert." Toto growled, keeping a good distance away. "Back up," said the scarecrow to those behind him. "Let us go back a little way, and we'll talk this over." So they turned and went around the bend in the passage, where they were out of sight of the cave and Mr. Yoop could not hear them. "My idea," began the scarecrow when they had halted, "is to make a dash past the cave, going on a run." "He'd grab us," said Dorothy. "Well, he can't grab but one at a time, and I'll go first. As soon as he grabs me, the rest of you can slip past him, out of his reach, and he will soon let me go because I'm not fit to eat." They decided to try this plan, and Dorothy took Toto in her arms as to protect him. She followed just after the scarecrow. Then came Oho, with Scraps at the last of the four. Their hearts beat a little faster than usual as they again approached the giant's cave, this time moving swiftly forward. It turned out about the way the scarecrow had planned. Mr. Yoop was quite astonished to see them come flying towards him, and thrusting his arm between the bars had seized the scarecrow in a firm grip. In the next instant he realized, from the way the straw clenched between his fingers, that he had captured the non-edible man. But during that instant of delay, Dorothy and Oho had slipped by the giant and were out of reach. Uttering a howl of rage, the monster threw the scarecrow after them with one hand and grabbed Scraps with the other, and the poor scarecrow went whirling through the air, and so cleverly as he aimed that he struck Oho's back and sent the boy tumbling head over heels, and he tripped Dorothy and sent her also sprawling upon the ground. Toto flew out of the girl's arms and landed some distance ahead, and all were so dazed that it was the moment before they could scramble to their feet again. When they did so, they turned to look toward the giant's cave, and at that moment the ferocious Mr. Yoop threw the Patchwork Girl at them. Down went all three again in a heap with Scraps on top. The giant roared so terribly that for a time they were afraid he had broken loose, but he hadn't. So they sat on the road and looked at one another in a rather bewildered way, and then began to feel glad. We did it!" exclaimed the Scarecrow with satisfaction. "And now we are free to go on our way." "Mr. Yoop is very impolite," declared Scraps. "He jarred me terribly. It's lucky my stitches are so fine and strong, for otherwise such harsh treatment might rip me up the back." "Allow me to apologize for the giant," said the Scarecrow, raising the Patchwork Girl to her feet and dusting her skirt with his stuffed hands. "Mr. Yoop is a perfect stranger to me, but I fear, from the rude manner in which he has acted, that he is no gentleman." Dorothy and Oho laughed at this statement, and Toto barked as if he understood the joke, after which they all felt better and resumed their journey in high spirits. "Of course," said the little girl, when they had walked a way along the passage, "it was lucky for us the giant was caged, for if he had happened to be loose, he, perhaps in that case he wouldn't have been hungry any more," said Oho gravely. "Let's go, Mr. Scarecrow, let's go." Dorothy's savage, right? I don't know if I would. If I was the giant, I don't know if I would have thrown the scarecrow. I probably would have ripped him in half, which is what I thought he was going to do. Luckily, he used him as a as ammunition. Maybe there's 28 chapters in here. Oh yeah, there might be 28 chapters. Where are we at? Just at about that 3-hour mark. Are we gonna have to do one more? We might have to do one more live for this book to finish it. I thought there was 21 chapters. There's 28, which is fine. I'll eat the dog last, right? That was very, very much like you can still sense the I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog too. Like, good aim, right? Twice. But you really have to like ask the Scarecrow and Dorothy, like, have you thought of moving while this girl was flying through the air? Excellent. I'm glad you're feeling better, Leighton. What was for dinner? So, what did I eat? I know I had something, but I do have a burrito for after stream. No worries, all, Rafa. I hope you're doing well, brother. That's what he said. I'll eat your dog for dessert. I know it was something because I've been munching all day. I've been munching all day. I think I did get some, like, I had a bunch of, well, I know this isn't what New Zealand fam wants to hear, but I had a bunch of, like, snack foods. So I've kind of been munching all day. I was not hungry when I started. I'm getting a little hungry now, but we're coming close to the 2 hour mark. So we'll get through chapter 21. We'll see how we feel as there's 7 chapters left. So, but this one is called, great, Hip Hopper the Champion. They must have they must have had good courage to climb all those rocks, for after getting out of the canyon, they encountered more rock hills to be surmounted. Toto could jump from one rock to another quite easily, but the others had to creep and climb with care, so that after a whole day of such work, Dorothy and Oho found themselves very tired. As they gazed upward at the great mass of tumbled rocks that covered the steep incline, Dorothy gave a little groan and said, "That's going to be a terrible hard climb, Scarecrow. I wish we could find the dark well without so much trouble." "Suppose," said Oho, "you wait here and let me do the climbing? For it's on my account we're searching for the dark well. Then, if I don't find anything, I'll come back and join you." "No," replied the little girl, shaking her head positively. "We'll all go together, for that way we can help each other. If you went alone, something might happen to you, Oho." So they began to climb and found it indeed difficult for a way. But presently, in creeping over the big crags, they found a path at their feet which wound in and out among the masses of rock and was quite smooth and easy to walk upon. As the path gradually ascended the mountain, although in a roundabout way, they decided to follow it. "This must be the road to the country of the Hoppers," said the Scarecrow. "Who are the Hoppers?" asked Dorothy. Some people Jack Pumpkinhead told me about," he replied. "I didn't hear him," replied the girl. "No, you were asleep," explained the Scarecrow, "but he told Scraps and me that the Hoppers and the Horners live on this mountain." "He said in the mountain," declared Scraps, "but of course he meant on it." "Didn't he say what the Hoppers and Horners were like?" inquired Dorothy. "No, he only said there were 2 separate nations and that the Horners were the most important." "Well, if we go into their country, we'll have to find out all about 'em," said the girl. "But I've never heard Ozma mention those people, so they can't be very important." "Is this mountain in the Land of Oz?" asked Scraps. "Of course it is," answered Dorothy. "It's in the south country of the Quadlings, but no one comes to the edge of Oz in any direction. There is nothing more to be seen at all. Once you could see a sandy desert all around Oz, but now it's different, and no other people can see us any more than we can see them." "If the mountain is under Ozma's rule, why doesn't she know about the Hoppers and the Horners?" Oho asked. "Why, it's a fairyland," explained Dorothy, "and lots of queer people live in places so tucked away that those in the Emerald City never even hear of them. In the middle of the country it's different, but when you get around the edges you're sure to run into strange little corners that surprise you. I know, for I've traveled in Oz a good deal, and so has the Scarecrow." "Yes," admitted the straw man, "I've been considerable of travelers in my time, and I'd like to explore strange places. I find I learn much more by traveling than by staying at home." During this conversation, they had been walking up a steep pathway and now found themselves well up on the mountain. They could see nothing around them, for the rocks beside their path were higher than their heads, nor could they see far in front of them, because the path was so crooked. But suddenly they stopped, because the path ended and there was no place to go. Ahead was a big rock lying against the side of a mountain, and this blocked the way completely. "There wouldn't be a path, though, if it didn't go somewhere," said the Scarecrow, wrinkling his forehead in deep thought. "This isn't somewhere, isn't it? This is somewhere, isn't it?" asked the Patchwork Girl, laughing at the bewildered looks of the others. "The path is locked, the way is blocked, yet here we're innocently flocked, and now we're here. It's rather queer, there's no front door that can be knocked." "Please don't, Scraps," said Oho. "You make me nervous." "Well," said Dorothy, "I'm glad of a little rest, for that's a dreadful steep path." As she spoke, she leaned against the edge of the big rock that stood in their way, and to her surprise, it slowly swung backwards and showed behind it a dark hole that looked like the mouth of a tunnel. "Why, here's where the path goes to!" she exclaimed. "So it is," answered the Scarecrow. "But the question is, do we want to go where the path goes?" "It's underground, right inside the mountain," said Oho, peering into the dark hole. "Perhaps there's a well there, and if there is, it's sure to be a dark one." "Why, that's true enough," cried Dorothy with eagerness. "Let's go in, Scarecrow, 'cause if others have gone, we're pretty safe to go, too." Toto looked in and barked, but he did not venture to enter until the Scarecrow had bravely gone first. Scraps followed closely after the straw man, and then Oho and Dorothy timidly stepped inside the tunnel. As soon as all of them had passed the big rock, it slowly turned and filled up the opening again. But now they were no longer in the dark, for a soft rosy light enabled them to see around them quite distinctly. It was only a passage wide enough for the two of them to walk abreast, with Toto in between them. And it had a high arched roof. They could not see where the light which flooded the place was so pleasantly came from, for there were no lamps anywhere visible. The passage ran straight a little way, and then made a bend to the right and another sharp turn to the left, after which it went straight again. But there were no side passages, so they could not lose their way. After proceeding some distance, Toto, who had gone on ahead, began to bark loudly. They ran around a bend to see what was the matter, and found a man sitting on the floor in the passage, leaning his back against the wall. He had probably been asleep before Toto's barks aroused him, for he was now rubbing his eyes and staring at the little dog with all his might. There was something about this man that Toto objected to, and when he slowly rose to his foot, they saw what it was. He had but one leg, set just below the middle of his round body, fat body, but it was a stout leg, and had a broad, flat foot at the bottom of it, on which the man seemed to stand very well. He had never had but this one leg, which looked something like a pedestal, and which Toto ran up and made a grab at the man's ankle. He hopped first one way and then the other in a very active manner, looking so frightened that Scraps laughed aloud. Toto was usually a well-behaved dog, but this time he was angry and snapped at the man's leg again and again. This filled the poor fellow with fear, and in hopping out of Toto's reach, he suddenly lost his balance and tumbled heel over head upon the floor. When he sat up, he kicked Toto on the nose and made the dog howl angrily, but Dorothy now ran forward and caught Toto's collar, holding him back. "Do you surrender?" she asked the man. "Who, me?" asked the hopper. "Yes, you," said the little girl. "Am I captured?" he inquired. "Of course, my dog has captured you," she said. "Well," replied the man, "if I'm captured, I must surrender, for it's the proper thing to do. I like to do everything proper, for it saves one a lot of trouble." "It does indeed," said Dorothy. "Please tell us who you are." "I'm Hip Hopper, the champion." "Champion what?" she asked in surprise. "Champion wrestler. I'm a very strong man, and that ferocious animal which you're so kindly holding is the first living thing that has ever conquered me." "And you are a hopper?" she continued. "Yes, my people live in a great city not far from here. Would you like to visit it?" "I'm not sure," she said with hesitation. "Have you any dark wells in your city?" I think not. We have wells, you know, but they're all well lighted. And a well lighted well cannot well be a dark well. But there may be such a thing as a very dark well in the Horner country, which is the black spot on the face of the earth. Where is the Horner country? Oho inquired. The other side of the mountain. There's a fence between the Hopper country and the Horner country, and a gate in the fence. But you can't pass through it just now because we're at war with the Horners. That's too bad, said the Scarecrow. What seems to be the trouble? Why, one of them made a very insulting remark about my people. He said we were lacking in understanding because we had only one leg to a person. I can't see what legs have anything to do with understanding things. The Horners each have 2 legs, just as you have. That's one leg too many, it seems to me. No, declared Dorothy. It's just the right number. You don't need them, argued the Hopper obstinately. You only have one head and one body and one nose and mouth. 2 legs are quite unnecessary, and they spoil one's shape. But how can you walk with only one leg? Asked Oho. Walk? Who wants to walk? Exclaimed the man. Walking is a terribly awkward way to travel. I hop, and so do all my people. It's so much more graceful than and agreeable than walking. I don't agree with you, said the Scarecrow, but tell me, is there any way to get to the Horner country without going through the city of the Hoppers? Yes, there is another path from the rocky lowlands outside the mountain that leads straight to the entrance of the Horner country. But it is a long way around, so you'd better come with me. Perhaps they'll allow you to go through the gate. But we expect to conquer them this afternoon if we get time, and then you may go and come as you please. They thought it best to take the Hopper's advice and ask him to lead the way. This he did in a series of hops, and he moved so swiftly in this strange manner that those with 2 legs had to run to keep up with him. I don't know about that, Uncle Brangus. The rules at our dinner table is no main meal, no dessert, and that's a good rule. I would as well. Aw, and very happy birthday to you, Leighton. I'm honored that you're choosing to spend your little bit of your birthday here with me. Are you guys enjoying the story? I know that we're just at about that 2 hour mark. We've read our 7 chapters. Do we want to read a couple more? I know that might kind of wreck the theme of next week. But chapter 22 is the Joking Horners. So I imagine we'll get to meet the Horners as well. Still have about 12 of you here. 24 likes. I really appreciate y'all. Indubitably. Let me see where my battery is at. More? Please, sir. Can I have some more? Even though I was lurking playing drums, I was listening to wireless headphones on. Excellent. All right, let me take a look here. 22%. All right, we might only have time for the one more. But we'll read one more chapter. Yeah, we'll read one more chapter for the night. Chapter 22, The Joking Horners. It was not long before they left the passage and came to a great cave so high that it must have reached nearly to the top of the mountain within which it lay. It was a magnificent cave, illuminated by a soft invisible light, so that everything in it could be plainly seen. The walls were of polished marble, white with veins of delicate colors running through it, and the roof was arched and fantastic and beautiful. Built beneath this vast dome was a pretty village, not very large, for there seemed not more than 50 houses altogether, and the dwellings were made of marble and artistically designed. No grass, nor flowers, nor trees grew in this cave, so the yards surrounding the houses carved in the designs both were smooth and bare, and had low walls around them to mark their boundaries. In the streets and the yards of the houses were many people, and all having one leg growing below their bodies, and all hopping here and there wherever they moved. Even the children stood firmly upon their single legs and never lost their balance. "All hail, champion!" cried a man in the first group of hoppers they met. "Whom have you captured?" "No one," replied the champion in a gloomy voice. "These strangers have captured me." "Then," said another, "we will rescue you and capture them, for we are greater in number." "No," answered the champion, "I can't allow it. I've surrendered, and it isn't polite to capture those you've surrendered to." "Never mind that," said Dorothy. "We will give you your liberty and set you free." "Really?" asked the champion in joyous tones. "Yes," said the little girl. "Your people may need your help to conquer the Horners." At this all the hoppers looked downcast and sad. Several more had joined the group by this time, and quite the crowd of curious men, women, and children surrounded the strangers. "This war with our neighbors is a terrible thing," remarked one of the women. "Someone is almost sure to get hurt." "Why do you say that, madam?" inquired the Scarecrow. "Because the horns of our enemies are sharp, and in battle they will try to stick those horns into our warriors," she replied. "How many horns do the Horners have?" asked Dorothy. "Each has one horn in the center of his forehead," was the answer. "Oh, they're unicorns," declared the Scarecrow. "No, they're Horners. We never go to war with them if we can help it, on account of their dangerous horns. But this insult was so great and so unprovoked that our brave men decided to fight in order to be revenged," said the woman. "What weapons do you fight with?" asked the Scarecrow. "Oh, we have no weapons," explained the champion. "Whenever we fight the Horners, our plan is to push them back for our arms are longer than theirs." "Then you are better armed," said Scraps. "Yes, but they have those terrible horns, and unless we are careful they prick us with their points," returned the champion with a shudder. "That makes war with them dangerous, and a dangerous war cannot be a pleasant one." "I see very clearly," remarked the Scarecrow, "that you are going to have trouble in conquering those Horners unless we help you." "Oh!" cried the Hoppers in a chorus. "Can you help us? Please do. We will be greatly obliged. It would please us very much." And by these exclamations the Scarecrow knew that his speech had met with favor. "How far is it to the Horner country?" he asked. "Why, it's just the other side of the fence," they answered, and the champion added, "Come with me, please. I'll show you the Horners." So they followed the champion and several others through the streets, and just beyond the village came to a very high picket fence, built all of marble, which seemed to divide the great cave into two equal parts. But the part inhabited by the Horners was in no way as grand in appearance as that of the Hoppers. Instead of being marble, the walls and roof were dull gray rock, and the square houses were plainly made of the same material. But in extent, the city was much larger than that of the Hoppers, and the streets were thronged with numerous people who busied themselves in various ways. Looking through the open pickets of the fence, our friends watched the Horners, who did not know they were being watched by strangers, and found them very unusual in appearance. They were little folks in size, and had bodies round as balls and short legs and arms. Their heads were round too, and they had long pointed ears and a horn set in the center of their forehead. The horns did not seem very terrible, for they were not more than 6 inches long, but they were ivory white and sharp pointed, and no wonder the Hoppers feared them. The skins of the Horners were light brown, and they wore snow white robes and were barefooted. Dorothy thought the most striking thing about them was their hair, which grew in 3 distinct colors on each and every head, red, yellow, and green. The red was at the bottom of the bottom and sometimes hung over their eyes, and then came to a broad circle of yellow, and then green was at the top and formed a brush-shaped top knot. None of the Horners was yet aware of the presence of strangers who watched the little brown people for a time and then went to the big gate in the center of the dividing fence. It was locked on both sides, and over the latch was a sign reading, "War is declared." "Can't we go through?" asked Dorothy. "Not now," answered the champion. "I think," said the Scarecrow, "that if I could talk with those Horners, they would apologize to you, and then there would be no need to fight." "Can't you talk from this side?" asked the champion. "Not so well," replied the Scarecrow. "Do you suppose you could throw me over that fence? It's high, but I'm very light." "We can try it," said the Hopper. "I am perhaps the strongest man in my country, so I'll undertake to do the throwing, but I won't promise you'll land on your feet." "No matter about that," returned the Scarecrow. "Just toss me over and I'll be satisfied." So the champion picked up the Scarecrow and balanced him a moment to see how much he weighed, and then with all his strength tossed him high into the air. Perhaps if the Scarecrow had been a trifle heavier, he would have been easier to throw would have would have gone a greater distance, but as it was, instead of going over the fence, he landed just on top of it, and one of the sharp pickets caught him in the middle of his back and held him fast prisoner. Had he been face downward, the Scarecrow might have managed to free himself, but lying on his back on the picket, his hands waved in the air of the Horner country while his feet kicked in the air of the Hopper country. So there he was. "Are you hurt?" called the Patchwork Girl anxiously. "Course not," said Dorothy. "But if he wiggles that way, he may tear his clothes." "How can we get him down, Mr. Champion?" The champion shook his head. "I don't know," he confessed. "If he could scare Horners as well as he does crows, he might be a good idea to leave him there." "That is terrible," said Oho, almost ready to cry. "I suppose it's because I'm Oho the Unlucky that everyone who tries to help me gets into trouble." "You are lucky to have anyone to help you," declared Dorothy. "But don't worry. I'll rescue the Scarecrow somehow." "I know how," announced Scraps. "Here, Mr. Champion, just throw me up to the Scarecrow. I'm nearly as light as he is, and when I'm on top of the fence, I'll pull our friend off the picket and toss him down to you." "All right," said the champion, and he picked up the Patchwork Girl and threw her in the same manner he had the Scarecrow. He must have used more strength this time, however, for Scraps sailed far over the top of the fence, and without being able to grab the Scarecrow at all, tumbled to the ground in the Horner country, where her stuffed body knocked over 2 men and a woman, and made a crowd that had collected there run like rabbits to get away from her. Seeing the next moment that she was harmless, the people slowly returned and gathered around the Patchwork Girl, regarding her with astonishment. One of them wore a jeweled star in his hair just above his horn, and this seemed a person of importance. He spoke for the rest of his people, who treated him with great respect. "Who are you, unknown being?" he asked. "Scraps," she said, rising to her feet and patting her cotton wadding smooth where it had bunched up. "And where do you come from?" he continued. "Over the fence. Don't be silly. There's no other place I could have come from," she replied. He looked at her thoughtfully. "You are not a hopper," he said, "for you have 2 legs, but they are not well shaped. But they are 2 in number. And that strange creature on top of the fence, why doesn't he stop kicking? Must he be your brother or father or son, for he also has 2 legs." "You must have been to visit the wise donkey," said Scraps, laughing so merrily that the crowd smiled with her in sympathy. "But that reminds me, Captain or King, I am Chief of the Horners, and my name is Jack." "Of course, little Jack Horner. I might have known it. But the reason I volplaned over the fence was so I could have a talk with you about the hoppers." "What about the hoppers?" asked the chief, frowning. "You've insulted them, and you better beg their pardon," said Scraps. "If you don't, they'll probably hop over here and conquer you." "We're not afraid, as long as the gate is locked," declared the chief. "And we didn't insult them at all. One of us made a joke, and that stupid hopper couldn't see it." The chief smiled as he said this, and the smile made his face look quite jolly. Was it what was the joke?" asked Scraps. "A Horner said They have less understanding than we because they only one leg. You see the point, don't you? If you stand on your legs and your legs are under you, then then your legs are understanding. But that's a fine joke. And the stupid hoppers couldn't see it. They couldn't see that with only one leg, they must have less understanding than we who have two legs. The chief wiped tears from laughter from his eyes and the bottom hem of his white robe, and all the other Horners wiped their eyes on their robes, for they had a laugh just as heartily as their chief at the absurd joke. Then, said Scraps, their understanding of the understanding you mean led to the misunderstanding. Exactly, so there's no need for us to apologize, returned the chief. No need for an apology, perhaps, but much need for an explanation, said Scraps decidedly. You don't want war, do you? Not if we can help it, admitted Jack Horner. The question is, who's going to explain the joke to the Horners? You know, it spoils any joke to be obliged to explain it, and this is the best joke I've ever heard. Who made the joke? Asked Scraps. Dixie Horner. He's working in the mines just now, but he'll be home before long. Suppose we'll wait and talk with him about it. Maybe he'll be willing to explain this joke to the hoppers. All right, said Scraps. I'll wait if Dixie isn't too long. No, he's short. He's shorter than I am. That's a better joke than Dixie's. He won't be too long because he's short. The other Horners who were standing by roared with laughter and seemed to like the chief's joke as much as he did. Scraps thought it was odd and they could be so easily amused, but decided there could be little harm in people who laughed so merrily. That's the end of chapter 22. And now my Kindle is dim, like the brightness went to 5%, so I know it's about to die. So sadly, I will not be able to continue on tonight as much as I would like to, and we will finish the last 6 chapters next week. Pun game is on point, right? Understanding. Lasagna. I love it. Lasagna. I love lasagna. Right? Understanding, and then shouldn't be long. He's shorter than I am. That's a great book so far, right? I really like it. I really thought this was the end of it, but I guess there's still 6 chapters left, but that's okay. We'll do one more week, and then we were going to get into Mama Ghost book after we were done with this one. I just didn't want to leave this one unfinished, and of course, Mama Ghost definitely wanted to hear the end of it, so we're doing that for her too. But I really, really appreciate you guys hanging around. Still 10 people hanging around, reading. My little ghosty readers got 26 likes on a reading stream. Really, really appreciate y'all. Let me go ahead and take a look and see who happens to be. Oh, I gotta go and talk to him. Okay, so what I think we are going to do is we are going to go and I'm going to drop you all off with Jay's Corner TCG. Of course, that's just so that I can go in and thank him for the package that arrived and the things that arrived for me last week. Of course, I do want to give just a disclaimer for my younger audience. There is no filter over there, so viewer discretion is advised. I did just want to throw that out there before we end. But Ghost Fam, I really, really do appreciate you all coming in and your love for the stories and interacting with the story, and really, really makes. Oh, hey, Nab, what's going on, man? I just saw you. It's good to see you, Nabcore. But with that, remember to go out and get everything that you set out to get, y'all, and don't let anything stop you. But it takes $0 to be a good person, y'all. So always remember to do that through peace, love, and Pokemon. And thank you all for believing in ghosts. Leighton, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your birthday. Thank you so much for being here. Leighton, Layla, Nana, Katrina, and Brad. Mrs. 5150, much love. Good night. Have a beautiful rest of your night. Raphilosophy. Hey, Jesse, you made it. Fun Monday, brother. I appreciate that. Really, I meant you made it to the end, not you made it to the stream. But really appreciate you. If you're going to bed, you can go ahead and go to bed and sweet dreams. And I will see you all next on Thursday. And I have a fun plan for Thursday. I think we're going to start going through my collection, and I'll start showing you guys the stuff that I keep kind of like sealed up. So I know you've been here the whole time. I just know that typically you start falling asleep. So I appreciate you, Jess. Lolo, much love, Boo. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your night as well. And yeah, let's go. If you're coming with me to Jay's, let's go say hi to Jay's Corner TCG. But I love you all. Peace, love, and Pokemon, y'all. Thank you for believing in ghosts.